tonight's ASMR video. We're on our second to last episode. Can you believe it? Right before we finish up Hikari's tale. So, where were we? Yes. Hikari teleported to a village that she'd vaguely recognized before. There was a fountain in the middle, and there were houses that lined all around her. There were no kids, and it looked abandoned and destroyed, in ruins, if you will. Hikari looked all around her, for it seemed familiar. As she stared on and on, she realized this used to be her home. She walked to her old house where she saw it in ruins, burn marks all around her. She couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe that she'd arrived home. As she walked all around her, she saw bow and arrows sticking out, katanas laid down, guns on the floor, guardians, uniforms, and many, many other things. This was her people, she thought. This was who she was. As she walked through the streets, she quickly realized that she was home, and that her people had been taken into this battle between Guardians and Anna, that she wasn't a part of it, that she shouldn't have, that they were once a peaceful village, thriving and living alone and living peacefully, and the Guardians and the Anna took the ability away to live there, peacefully and happily. As she stood there, she thought to herself, she was kidnapped into this awful world, into this division of people. And as she stood there, weeping over her mother's grave, she realized that her people was everyone that the Guardians and Anna had destroyed. Everyone that they'd taken away. Everyone who'd been affected by this. Those were her people. And it was her job to protect those people who couldn't protect themselves. As she sat there, she pulled out the shurikens, placing them on the floor in front of her. Her tears fell as onto the shurikens, causing them to turn in a specific manner. She watched as they turned in front of her, stopping on a point right in front of her. She looked up in front of her as the shurikens pointed at a specific place. As she walked forward, she saw that it was pointing at her old house, where she used to live. Hikari was confused. She made her way towards her old house, where she opened up the door. As she opened up the inside of her old house, finding it in ruins, she saw that the shurikens were pointing at a specific tiny box. Hikari walked forward to it, removing the debris from on top. There had been wood and trees and plants growing on top, and Hikari removed these belongings off of the box. When she pulled it back, she saw a beautiful gold box still intact and preserved. As she opened it up, she saw a headband inside. A headband with the symbol of the Anna. She looked at it as she picked it up. She stared at it as her eyes immediately went white, completely white. She saw everything. She saw the Anna. She saw her people. She saw the Guardians. Most importantly, she saw the armor. You see, when Hikari put the headband on, the armor appeared all over her body, like the color of a lightsaber, synthetically appearing all around her. As she watched the armor appear on her body, she felt the power surge through her. The powerfulness absolutely escape her body and into the armor. It wasn't the type of power she couldn't control, like the sword, but it was the power that brought her happiness, a power that brought her peace. As she watched the armor all around her, she felt a large boom. She looked up, where she saw Nekano standing before her, teleported inside. You, she said, pointing the katana at her. You have two things that belong to me. Hikari stood at her. She was not about to let her have it. As she watched Nekano, all she could think about was the The things she'd taken from her, the world she'd taken her into, and the awfulness that had consumed her. As Hikari watched her, these emotions consumed her. And she was not happy. Eventually, she made her way outside of the house, where she saw Nekano, and she pointed the sword at her in the process. You, Hikari said. You destroyed them. I did no such thing, Nekano said. You came to here. You destroyed that house. The Guardians destroyed you, Nekano replied. I did no such thing. You will pay for what you did, Hikari said. I will do no such thing, Nekano said. Don't forget I gave you a home when you had none. I had a home, Hikari said. But you destroyed it. As she looked her deep in her eyes, Hikari felt a splendouring hate stored up inside of her. And she attacked her. Nekano charged at her with her katana and began swinging at her, trying to kill her. You do not deserve that katana, Hikari said. Neither do you, Nekano said. As they fought, Hikari realized that Nekano's power was too strong, for Nekano wasn't on it long before she was, and Nekano wielded the most powerful weapon. With one swing, Nekano knocked Hikari on her back and pointed the sword over her. I have won, Hikari, Nekano said. Yield before I kill you. Hikari watched in fear, fearing for her life as she stood in the place that she once called home. And with that, I conclude our second to last episode. We will continue this series soon. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And have a good evening. Hope you enjoyed tonight's ASMR Sleepy Time Stories. Good night.